College football is constantly changing, and the Oklahoma Sooners portal recruiting could skyrocket this season. And I'm here to tell you who you should potentially be on the lookout for. Additionally, some huge news dropped yesterday, and I think the Oklahoma Sooners could be looking to strike and take advantage. So we got to talk about it. And if you missed the video yesterday, you've got to go over there. You've got to watch it because we talked about who could be on the Oklahoma Sooners target list in 2026 with the recent firing of Brent Pry at Virginia Tech and Deshaun Foster over at UCLA. So jump in the comments below, join the discussion, let me know what your thoughts are. If you're new to the channel, this is where I ask you to hit that like and hit that subscribe button so you're not missing out on any Oklahoma content and you can be constantly up to speed with what's going on the recruiting trail and with the team week by week. But obviously, today we got to talk about the transfer portal for the Sooners. You might be asking yourself, or really asking me, why in the world are we talking about the transfer portal 4 games into the season where the transfer portal doesn't open up until, I think, what is it, like the second or third week of December? Well, let me tell you why. Because Deshaun Foster and Brent Pry both just got relieved of their head coaching duties at UCLA and Virginia Tech. And this is big news and pretty significant for the reason of, if you're not familiar with the transfer rules, when a coach gets fired, a 30-day window to enter the transfer portal will open up for anybody on that team. Now, here's where this really gets significant. For anybody on the UCLA or Virginia Tech squad, they have only played 3 games this year, meaning at any point in time, up until the 4th game, or anybody that just hasn't played 4 games yet, could decide that they want to preserve a eligible red shirt. If they have it, they have to be eligible for it, right? They can preserve a red shirt, use it, enter the transfer portal, and go play somewhere else. So if they're a senior this year and they haven't used the red shirt, they can use it and potentially come to Oklahoma and play a season here. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, how do we know who in the world Oklahoma could even want to look at off those teams? Because it just seems too early. You obviously haven't seen anybody into the transfer portal yet. You've seen a lot of decommitments on the recruiting trail. But if you go back and you look at history on the recruiting trail, you can kind of put 2 and 2 together of some guys that Oklahoma might potentially be interested in circling back around on, because at one point they were involved on the recruiting trail. Or you could look at guys that maybe Oklahoma never really looked at, but are having great careers and maybe would fit a position of need for Oklahoma. And so I've got a couple of those. And I want to start off with the 2023 or the 2024 recruiting class. Over at UCLA, Oklahoma was recruiting a wide receiver by the name of Quasi Gilmore. Gilmer. Now, he is the leading wide receiver right now for the Bruins with 30 receiving yards. He has 16 receptions for 174 yards, a 10.9 yard average. He doesn't have any touchdowns, but he is 6'2", 180. So this is a guy where if Oklahoma maybe needed another wide receiver, they don't pick up anybody else on the recruiting trail, I have 100% certainty that they're probably going to go hit the portal for a couple of guys this offseason. That's something that I would, if I was somebody, potentially be looking at. Now, if you go to the 2025 cycle, Oklahoma lost a defensive lineman to Virginia Tech. If you guys remember, we had him here on the podcast multiple times, Christian Evans, the 6'2", 300-pound defensive lineman out of Stonebridge High School in Ashburn, Virginia. He is currently playing for Virginia Tech. He would be a younger guy. I believe he'd be a redshirt freshman this year, so potentially a sophomore. Redshirt sophomore when he comes in, if he would want to come in for Oklahoma. That's a guy that I'd potentially be wanting to look at because I know Oklahoma is going to lose defensive linemen this year, and so they're going to need to potentially add some more pieces for depth, especially if they can get somebody that can come in and play right away. That would be a name that I would potentially be looking at. Additionally, another guy that Oklahoma was recruiting on the recruiting trail in 25 was a guy by the name of Jaden Hudson out of Pittsburgh, California. He's a 6'2", 195-pound safety, currently plays for UCLA. And again, that could be a position of need. You're going to lose Robert Spears Jennings. Who knows if Peyton Bowen is going to be eligible for the draft, right? So, you got to look at those players. You got to look at who you might be replacing. Oklahoma could be looking at bringing in talent right away. Now, for guys that are currently playing on Virginia Tech or UCLA squad that maybe Oklahoma wasn't necessarily involved in on the recruiting trail. So a guy over at UCLA that I thought would be interesting would be the Isaiah Chisholm. He's a 6'1", 235-pound linebacker. This year he is a sophomore. I don't think he's a redshirt sophomore, so he could essentially use that eligibility if he has it and potentially come to Oklahoma if Oklahoma needs another linebacker. And then I was looking at tight ends because obviously I think that's a huge position of need for Oklahoma. They got a junior, Jack Peterson, 6'5", 240. This season, he's only got 6 receptions for 48 yards. And it's not like he's had a super stellar career. Last year, he had 12 receptions for 126 yards and 1 touchdown. But that was a tight end that I thought, hey, this could be a position of need for Oklahoma. They could go after a guy like that. And then when you go over to Virginia Tech's roster, where I feel like we're going to be probably trying to identify guys more on the defensive line. Remember, anybody that is a senior that has a red shirt available, I think could be somebody that Oklahoma could look at, because if they decide to use it now and then into the portal, they would still have 2 years of eligibility. Kamari Copeland, a 6'3", 285-pound junior defensive lineman. Last year, he had 11 total tackles, 2 solos. He had half of a sack. This could be somebody that I could potentially see Oklahoma might get interested in if he hits the portal. And obviously, I think you're going to see a similar conversation be had for other targets at other schools that might fire their head coach mid-season, right? I think we're going to start having this conversation where you're going to see, the transfer portal open up for those players. If they decide they want to go hit the portal, you could see teams get in early. So if you're an Oklahoma Sooner fan, this is kind of where we're at. We could see the portal recruiting pick up if you start to see guys hit the transfer portal. Jim Nagy is going to be doing all the evaluations here, and I'm sure he'll go out there and find some decent prospects. So, all right. I know you all want to talk Peyton Houston. We're going to save that for another video, probably tomorrow. I'll probably make a short about it. So keep your guys' eyes peeled there. Make sure you guys are tuning in. And we'll talk about quarterback recruiting for Oklahoma in the 27 class now that Peyton Houston has moved on to LSU. What's next for Oklahoma on the recruiting trail in 27? Because I do think you could see multiple targets land in Oklahoma's favor. All right. That's it for today. If you guys are new to the channel, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And as always, join the discussion and let me know your guys' thoughts.